Good morning, everybody. I'm Scott Miller. I'm a board member for Green Energy Ohio, and we are here at the beginning of our final day of our statewide tour of Ohio, focusing on vehicle electrification and the implications that it's having on our communities, on manufacturing, on education, and on business. And I'm thrilled to be here today to introduce Morgan Kaufman. Morgan is the CEO and owner of Yellow Cab Central Ohio in Columbus. He's going to talk a little bit about Yellow Cab's commitment to reducing their carbon emissions and sustainability, and then we're going to take a tour of his facility. You're going to see some really fabulous stuff. So Morgan, could you tell us a little bit about why Yellow Cab is in the process of converting to electric vehicles?
Absolutely. No, thank you for that question. So Yellow Cab started here in Columbus in 1928, and we have grown to run about 10 million miles a year. So we thought we would be most apt to pioneer how fleets can go fully electric. And we learned some difficult lessons along the road. We learned that you can't just throw a bunch of electric vehicles on the streets without having a way to charge them. So we had to really visit that question of the chicken and the egg and build up our charging infrastructure at the same time that we were building our fleet up. So we're in the process of building mobility hubs throughout the city of Columbus right now. And at our mobility hubs, you'll see that there'll be different types and different sizes of electric vehicles, because we really believe that you don't necessarily need a four-door sedan to solve any mobility problem. There can also be small electric delivery vehicles, and also even something as small as a three-wheeled electric scooter. And we can talk about more of that later.
Okay, wonderful. Can I ask you one more question?
Please.
Sure. So you had mentioned in our just a very quick conversation before we started here today that you did not do this alone. This is a long-term commitment for Yellow Cab, and that you've been traveling the world to get some best practices, and you've been working with some really key partners here in Central Ohio,
Yes,
as well as across the country. Could you just talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely. We could not even have gotten close to having the doors open for us to even start the conversation without Columbus winning Smart City Columbus and the Columbus Partnership. Clean Fuels of Ohio was a huge help. HNTB has been a very big help for us, as well as NREL. Something to really understand about going electric is that vehicles operate differently, and they use a different type of braking. So when you brake in the vehicle, you're actually charging the battery. They call it regenerative braking. But what we all have to know is when you take your foot off the accelerator, the regenerative braking automatically starts, and you have to dial in very closely when the brake lights turn on, because you haven't touched the brake yet. So we've learned some lessons about how to operate that, because people behind you don't know you're slowing down when you're regenerative braking, and you can have accidents like this one. So we are one, if not the first, one of the first third-party Tesla body shops in the world, and we earned that designation during the pandemic. During the pandemic, went to almost no cash and credit. We almost only did essential work, and we lost a lot of drivers. And during that time period, we thought it was really important to take advantage of the time we had. We had meetings and decided we want to look back at this pandemic and be very proud of the time we had to rebuild and reimagine our business. So just with our team, we've been redoing the floors in here, redoing this is our body shop. This is where all the mechanics are. No one's here right now. We've given most of the people the day off so we could have you guys here, but they're going to probably be working very late at night tonight. Here is an example of what we're moving away from. So this is a Checker taxi that was in service here for a number of years.
I like the license plate.
Thank you. Thank you. And it was built very specifically to only be a taxi. And most of these were retired in the mid-'80s. And this gets about probably 11 miles per gallon. So this is a big reason that we felt it was our responsibility to step up and take some of the risks to pioneer into the future of what we can do for climate change. So this originally was a drive-in car wash. And when we started looking at all of our touch points and what we can do differently to be more aware of climate change and being kind to the planet, we realized that this was a big problem because we were going through about 220, 250 gallons of water per vehicle every day, every week, every year. So one of the first things we did when we started really paying attention to ourselves is we pulled it out. We found an organic way to clean the cars, and we're using about 20 gallons or less per vehicle now. And we're actually able to clean the cars faster than we were able to before with having less of a carbon footprint. This is a paint booth because we have to constantly paint the vehicles as they are in accidents. It still amazes me. A lot of our accidents happen when our cars are parked in grocery store parking lots. Somebody will back into us and just leave.
No way.
And it happens, I would say, every month, at the very least. So we, a lot of times, will pre-paint a lot of bumpers so we can get them in and get them right back out on the road as quickly as possible because we know it's going to happen. We have all kinds of GPS redundancies. We have cameras in the vehicles, not only to protect our backseat customers, but also to protect the drivers. So everything is being filmed and available all the time. So it's more of a safety concern. But to keep up with all of that, we need to have somebody who knows how to wire everything and make sure that the fleet's being taken care of. And Stephen, how long have you been with us?
22 years in August.
22 years. So, and you wouldn't believe it, as young as he looks. I said, you wouldn't believe it as young as you look.
Yeah.
But no.
So I take off the mask.
Thanks, Stephen. And this is our director of operations. We have a small gym here. And what I think we'll do is we'll go this way. This was our original fleet of vehicles back in 28.
Nice.
And is anybody from Columbus or is everybody from somewhere else?
Ohio. Central Ohio.
Because most people like to try to guess which park this is in Columbus. And I think only one person's gotten it right so far.
It's right down German Village, isn't it?
So this is Wolf Park on the east side.
Okay.
And so these vehicles were tough. We would take anybody anywhere in the city they wanted to go for 25 cents back then. And they had wooden spokes. And the roads back then were just absolutely terrible. So we were constantly replacing the wheels. And then we had to get into the wooden spoke business because we were going through those wheels so quickly. So you'll see some older posters. All were taken at Yellow Cab over the years from different parts of the city. Here's my office. Oh, and we did this world tour. One of our marketing guys did this for us because this was how we felt. We had traveled to all these different cities and conferences around the world just so we could talk to the people that had the answers to our questions. And a lot of time, nobody had ever asked those questions from a fleet perspective. So it was incredibly important for us to be able to learn those lessons from the people who knew the answers, because we certainly did not. I guess we can walk right through here. So this is our call center, and I'm just gonna walk back here. And this is usually humming with people, absolutely humming with people. But during the pandemic, we sent everybody home and we learned some important lessons that we were actually saving vehicle miles traveled by not having them come into the office. So they had more time to be with their families. They, in some cases, didn't need that extra car. And we're trying to decide right now if and when, and including a hybrid of when do we bring people back? Do we bring people back, or do we always work as a hybrid? We were able to hire a lot of folks who have handicaps and can't drive. That was an area that we didn't even know to look. So we've learned a lot during this pandemic that's been really helpful. So we used to have hundreds of drivers that would come through here every day. And now we have reduced it to probably less than 10. And so drivers don't have to come here to get a vehicle. We've decentralized our business plan. So we're not using that legacy traditional taxi model that everybody knows for the last 100 years. Our vehicles are going to be located at our mobility hubs, which are all across the street from Coda stops here in Columbus. So it really becomes an outreach of that multimodal solution that we're all working towards. The mobility hubs will also have charging stations, and like I said earlier, different types of vehicles depending on what the drivers want to do. And it's not important to us that they drive just for us. We're agnostic when it comes to that. They can work for Uber, for Lyft, for Postmates, whatever it is, because everybody has different goals. So it's nice to not have the necessity of a driver to get in their own car, drive all the miles to work, park that car, get into another vehicle, go work for the day, and then repeat that in reverse at the end of the day. So we've saved a lot of time, energy, and money just by making this decentralized business plan. Here are some photographs of some of our fleet from back in the day. The original name of our company is Columbus Green Cab, which I think is very apropos now in hindsight. But this is the type of vehicle that we used to have. And our phone number was Adams 4141 back in the day. So you just pick up the phone, you talk to the operator, just like you guys used to watch on the old black and white movies, and we would send a cab to you. But most of the cabs back in that day were hailed on the street like you see in New York. Our business in Columbus has changed considerably. Now people just use their smartphone, you push a button, and we send a vehicle. And this is how we like to greet everybody who comes into our building and remind them as we're leaving, because Maya had, in our opinion, very important words, because we are in the service business. And we feel that this transcends a lot of different cultures.